Good morning. This is the time and place for zoning cases hearing for June 19th, 2019. My name is Bradley Collin, and I will be conducting the hearing as a hearing officer. We have two cases scheduled today, and the relevant exhibits are posted on the panels located directly behind me. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms, looks like this, which have been provided by the front door and submitted to our planning assistant. I would like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the planning hearing officer's hearing are recorded as part of the public record. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices which were mailed to property owners and tenants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The hearing will proceed as follows. I'll read the description of the applicant's request. The case planner will then make a brief overview of the case, give an analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will then be asked to come forward, stating both name and address, and will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or opposition to the application and interested parties will then be asked to come forward to speak, again, clearly stating both name and address, the 3-minute time limit. Lastly, the applicant will be given the opportunity to make any closing comments if desired in response to testimonies given by the preceding speakers, and that'll be a 5-minute time limit. The hearing will be closed, and the case will either be taken under submission or a decision may be made. So we have two cases, as I mentioned, for today. We have application for a conditional use permit and a parking exception to allow the change of use for the front 2,021 square feet of an existing 4,140 square foot building from light manufacturing to a tavern use without providing the code required 33 spaces. This time, well, one more thing. If the evidence presented in the application and the hearing meets the required findings, then the hearing officer can either approve, impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, the case will be denied. At this time, I would like to have our staff presentation, please. Ms. Pruitt, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collin. The applicant is proposing to convert an existing 4,140 square foot industrial building to a microbrewery and a tavern, with approximately half of the building being used for each. The microbrewery is considered light manufacturing and is permitted by right with no increase in parking required. The introduction of a tavern use, however, for the first front half of the building triggers a parking requirement of 33 spaces. The site currently provides no parking, and it is not feasible to develop the site to provide that parking. The applicant also looked for parking use agreement opportunities nearby and was not able to find any. The project is located in the San Fernando Road Corridor Redevelopment Project area and thus qualifies for application of a parking exception if it meets the goals of the project area plan and if the request will not result in detrimental impacts to the community. As described in the staff report, staff believes the required findings of fact can be made, and no negative comments were received regarding this project from either city departments or the public. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the parking exception.
Thank you. I did have a question for you. When I went out to the property and drove around the area, I noticed off of Los Angeles Street, is that the cross street? That there was a parking lot at the rear, and I noticed that the plans show a door coming off the back of the tenant space. The parking lot that's located back there, is that on the same property as the subject tenant space?
The parking lot is not on the same property. It belongs to the adjacent property to the west, and it is closed off by a fenced area. Behind the building, there's I believe a 5-foot setback area. So there's not access to that parking area, and it's not available for their use.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. And I have one speaker card. William Ryder, please come forward. Please stating name and address for the record. And
Yes, William Ryder and 11948 Clonley Avenue in Granada Hills. The address is 550 West Garfield Street in Glendale that we're looking at. And pretty much we conducted a parking survey for the parking exception from 10:22 to 11:02. And I just wanted to note that in that submission that on average we had about 25 parking spaces at 4 o'clock that were available. The majority of these parking spaces were on Los Angeles Street next to the train tracks just northwest of the property. By 5 o'clock we had about 52 parking spaces on average, and by 6 o'clock there was about 60 parking spaces available. Just west or along that train track, there's approximately 40 to 42 parking spaces. The remainder of the parking spaces were available on Garfield and Windsor Street. We feel that with the 36, forgive me, I know it's in the ballpark of mid-30s of parking spaces that I needed for the address, that we feel that after hours, since the majority of the I would say 90% of my fellow businesses in that area all close between 5 and 6 o'clock, that there's the mass exodus of employees that park in that area leave at that time and would be available to my patrons during my business hours.
okay, could you please go through the findings for the parking exception?
Gotcha. So, parking exception. Okay. We do not have space on site for parking. Unfortunately, there are no lots available to lease nearby, so we will only be able to provide street parking. There are a total of 114 parking spots on the street. On average, at 4 p.m., there are between 20 and 35 spots available for parking. At 5 p.m., there are between 44 and 62 spots available. At 6 p.m., 54 to 66 spots available. And at 7, 62 to 75 spots available. Our building is 4,140 square feet. The public would only be granted access to the tavern space, which is approximately 1,800. The public would not be permitted to occupy the back of the spaces. We are in the San Fernando Road Corridor redevelopment project area, and we hope to add much success to this project for the community. Real Brewery Special is a craft beer barrel aging brewery tavern with TV studios in the neighborhood. Our hope is to become a TV and film industry hangout and a destination for thirsty seekers of rare and unusual beers. Our patrons will be craft beer geeks, entertainment industry professionals, and other Los Angeles and Glendale natives. With specializing in sours and barrel aging, our beers will be priced higher than your than your average bar or microbrewery. So the type of patrons we will attract to the neighborhood will be on a more upscale level, and Glendale branded beers further the city's goals of marketing to and attracting new individuals and businesses. The proposed use of brewery tavern will not affect the neighboring businesses, as the brewery's tasting room will be open at the tail end of the neighbors' operational hours. The manufacturing aspect of beer will have a minimal staff of 2 brewers, and we will have 2 deliveries a week by a small 10 to 16 foot box truck. The operational time will be Monday through Sunday between 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. for manufacturing, and the tavern will be open Monday through Friday. The tavern will be open, that's weird, Monday through Friday, I don't know why on here, sorry, 4 p.m. till about midnight and 12 p.m. to midnight Saturday and Sunday. To the west of the proposed location is a body shop who closes at 5 p.m. They are the last property until the railroad tracks. The neighbor to the east is a restaurant dish wholesaler who closes at 5 p.m. and will not be impacted by after-hours patrons. To the south is the Glendale Fire Department training facility and does not park cars or use the surrounding area. To the north is Los Angeles Street and a handful of mechanic shops, whom all close at 5 p.m. Parking impacts are minimal, and there is sufficient evidence to suggest there is enough street parking to suffice the parking exemption required for this property. Please refer to the enclosed parking study. There's also a bus route on San Fernando Road with a stop less than a quarter-mile walking distance, and that would also be accessible. The project location site is zoned industrial and is adjacent to industrial commercial mixed use. The area surrounding the subject site is heavily industrial, though there is another tavern only 1.2 miles away. No additional parking on site is available, and there are no lots close by. Glendale's current 18-hour initiative includes the attraction of breweries and taverns. As the craft beer market grows in Southern California, Glendale wants to offer the same amenities to local businesses, visitors, and residents as other culture seekers in Los Angeles. This project would create jobs, name recognition for Glendale, and provide a new amenity as the San Fernando Road corridor slowly turns from generally industrial to an urban environment with high-density residential and creative uses. Opening our tap room, we believe, would only positively affect the surrounding property and the neighborhood where we will be located. How much time do I have left? Sorry, I can keep going.
You can keep going.
Okay. Elimination of blight and deterioration and conservation, rehabilitation, and redevelopment of the area. Breweries are retail-oriented establishments that attract tourists and locals to the area. Redeveloping the current mechanic shop to a retail establishment will aid in the San Fernando corridor's objectives. Real Brewery will also be conducting local projects to aid in the upkeep of the train tracks area to eliminate blight and the perception of disuse in the area. We will be in constant communication with the city to alert them of broken fences, overgrown bush and weeds, illegal trash dumping, and homeless encampments. The elimination of all will aid in securing the trust of the public to visit the area. The promotion of private sector investment within the project area to prevent the loss of and to facilitate industrial and commercial sales activities is an important objective and will be the retention of existing and attraction of new industrial development within the area. Well, Real Brewery is a private company investing in the area, and we hope to bring a lot of revenue and to be able to hire local plumbers and local people to help build out the brewery. So the achievement of an environment reflecting a high level of concern for architectural, landscape, urban design, and land use principles. Appropriate for attainment of the objectives of this redevelopment plan. Well, craft beers is artistry in beer making, and breweries are often the hubs to various artists and other outlets. Real Brewery will be one of those hubs for filmmakers, artists, and other craftsmen to congregate. In order to attract those clientele, Real's exterior architectural design will help reflect that artistry as most breweries do. We try to show that the art of the beer is very much reflected in the architecture and the outside of it. Real Brewery will also be paying local permitting fees and aiding in attracting tourists interested in the beer industry. Beer tourism is increasing, and breweries are becoming destinations like wineries are to the farmland. I like to call breweries as the modern urban wineries as a way to attract people. Also, Real Brewery will be employing 5 to 7 employees and adding jobs to the local area. And yeah. Oh, sorry, that's about it. Sorry.
Okay.
I'm a little nervous. I'm not usually
No, you did fine.
in front speaking with people.
You did fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I assume you've had a chance to read through the conditions of approval as proposed by staff within the staff report
Within the conditional use permit?
for the parking exception.
No, sorry.
You want to do that real quick? Take a quick review of it. Careful. You okay?
And the
You can find that on page 12.
Well, of the draft findings at the bottom?
Just above that.
Yes,
Draft conditions
there's
of
8
approval.
conditions of,
8 conditions, gotcha. That the development shall be in substantial accord with the plan submitted with the application. Yep, they all sound normal and satisfactory.
okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
While you're waiting, you may want to take a look at the ones within the conditional use permits. That's the one I'm going to do next.
Okay.
So based on the findings recommended by staff, the facts and information presented at the hearing this morning, and the input received from the other departments, I am going to approve the subject parking exception request, case number 1901130, subject to the conditions that are listed within the staff report. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing, will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and to all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeals provision, Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, decisions may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from our Building and Safety section within our Permit Service Center, located on the same floor of this building. So let's go on to our next case, which is the conditional use permit part of the project. Ms. Pruitt.
Thank you, Mr. Collin. The applicant is proposing to convert approximately half of an existing 4,140 square foot industrial building to a tavern use, and that's the front half of the building, specifically a craft beer tasting room. No food will be served, and alcohol sales will be limited to the serving of beer only. As more fully analyzed in the staff report, staff believes the use is compatible with the neighborhood, it won't result in detrimental impacts to the neighborhood, and that all of the required findings of fact for a conditional use permit can be made. No negative comments were received from either city departments or the public, and standard conditions of approval recommended by the police department for alcohol sales uses have been recommended and are included as part of the staff report. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit.
Thank you, Ms. Pruitt. I do have another question. Will there be, and maybe this is a question for the applicant, but will there be off-site sale of the beer made on the premises? Do we know?
The ABC license that they've applied for does allow the sale of beer for off-site consumption, as far as I understand. Applicants nodding their head confirming.
And that's consistent with the tavern definition, or just part of the manufacturing license that they're asking for?
That's part of the tavern. It's the small beer manufacturer license.
Okay.
Allows for the manufacture of the beer on site and the sale and consumption of it for on or off site consumption.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
At this time, I'm going to open up the public hearing. Again, we have one speaker card. Mr. Ryder, if I can ask you to come back up. Again, please state name and address for the record. If you can, with this application, give me an idea of how the tavern will be run, and also please go through the findings for the conditional use permit. So I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing.
Name's
Ryder,
Will.
thank you.
William Ryder, 11948 Clonley Avenue, Granada Hills, and the project address is 550 West Garfield in the city of Glendale. The tavern will be run from the hours of operation from about 4 p.m. till about 2 a.m. That's what I believe we had put down here. In that, no, it's a family-friendly place. Breweries typically are, where they allow pets and families to come and so forth. There's obviously we follow strict ABC guidelines, making sure that there's no underage drinking. Usually so everyone will be carded, and there's usually not a lot of excess drinking because everyone that is there is usually there for tasting the beer. They do, and trying all the different varieties. We will have between 12 and 15 varieties of beer for them to taste. We don't plan on having, dancing or anything of that sense or loud music. We are in a heavily industrial area where there's not really any residences. We will be making sure that nobody loiters outside and so forth, which is often a concern. But there's the only residential is kind of southwest from us, over the train tracks and over in another industrial zone, and it's approximately 425 feet or so away. That we don't feel like we would be, the neighbors would hear us. But like I said, it's not like a nightclub. It's not like a loud bar at all. It's usually a place for people to congregate, talk about the beer, and the music is confined to the inside of the place. All right. So the CUP application, so how will the proposed use be consistent with the various elements and objectives of the general plan? And please forgive me, I was a poli-sci major, and so I get a little long-winded. I do apologize. But Real Brewery will be a brewery with a tasting room at 550 West Garfield Avenue, cross street, Los Angeles Street, off of San Fernando Road, near the train tracks and industrial zone. The manufacturing of beer is consistent with the zoning and the general plan of the industrial zone. The tasting room aspect of the brewery and the on-site consumption will alter the usage of the property and will deem it as a tavern moving forward. This usage is permissible in this area and is consistent with the general plan. In regard to the San Fernando Corridor redevelopment project, Real Brewery will help in the following project aspects: elimination of blight and deterioration and the conservation, rehabilitation, and redevelopment of the area. Breweries are retail-oriented establishments that attract tourists and locals to the area. So redeveloping the current mechanic shop to a retail establishment will aid in the San Fernando Corridor's objectives, and Real Brewery will also be conducting local projects to aid in the upkeep of the train tracks area, which is eliminated just west and north of the location, to eliminate blight and the perception of disuse in the area. We will be in constant communication with the city to alert them of broken fences, overgrown bush and weeds, illegal trash dumping, and homeless encampments, and the elimination of all the above will aid in securing the trust of the public to visit the area. 2, the promotion of private sector investment within the project area to prevent the loss of and to facilitate industrial and commercial sales activity. This is an important objective, will be the retention of existing and attracting of new industrial development within the project area. Well, Real Brewery is a private company, and forgive me, and I know I'm repeating some of the stuff from before. But the achievement of an environment reflecting a high level of concern for architectural, landscape, urban design, and land use principles appropriate for attainment of the objectives of this redevelopment plan, which is number 3. Craft beers, artistry, and beer making and breweries are often the hubs of various artists and their outlets. Real Brewery will be one of those hubs for filmmakers, and we will be artists and craftsmen to congregate in order to attract that clientele. Real Brewery's exterior architectural design will help reflect that artistry and add to the local urban design, much more than the current concrete brick exterior of the current mechanic shop. 4, the provision of increased revenues to the city of Glendale. Rural Brewery will be paying local permitting fees and aiding in attracting tourists interested in the beer industry. Beer tourism is increasing, and breweries are becoming destinations like wineries to the farmland, much like the modern urban wineries. But they've also we've also seen, because I run another business in Van Nuys next to another brewery called McLeod's, and in that area, people often order food for the brewery, like Urban Eats not Urban. Uber Eats and so forth, and other delivery. Since there's no food there, they often patron a lot of local establishments and help the other local establishments grow by having food delivered and going to go eat in those other areas. The creation and development of local job opportunities and the preservation, and number 5, the creation and development of local job opportunities and the preservation of the area's existing employment base. Well, Rural Brewery, as we see it right now, will have 5 to 7 employees adding to jobs in the local area. And then 6, the replanning, redesign, and development of areas which are stagnant or improperly utilized. Rural Brewery complies with 5 out of 9 of the objectives of the redevelopment plan for the San Fernando corridor. Other items that Rural Brewery could not assist with in the redevelopment plan are the improvement and enhancement of the local and regional transportation system, the expansion of the community's supply of housing, the retention and expansion of as many existing businesses as possibly by means of redevelopment and rehabilitation activities. Part 4B, why will the proposed use and its associate structures and facilities not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or to the environment? The proposed use of the brewery will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare, or to the environment, because the planned hours of operation are after the surrounding community's business hours, and there's no residential within 425 feet. The residential area that does fall within the 500-foot radius is over the train tracks on the other side of another row of industrial building to the west and southwest of the proposed location. Noise will not be an issue as the local businesses will be closed and the residential area is too far to hear the possibility of patrons' loud conversations walking to their cars or leaving the establishment. The brewery is not a nightclub and will not have loud music. The brewery will be a relaxing place to enjoy beer with a calm environment. Part 4C, why will the proposed use and facilities not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of the surrounding property? The proposed use of the brewery will not affect the neighboring businesses, as the brewery's tasting room will be open at the tail end of the neighbor's operational hours. The manufacturing aspect of beer will have a minimal staff of 2 brewers, and we will have 2 deliveries a week by a small 10 to 16 foot box truck. The peak operational time will be between 7 to 10 p.m. at night after the surrounding businesses close. To the west of the proposed location is a body shop who closes at 7 p.m. They are the last property until the railroad tracks. The neighbor to the east is a restaurant dish wholesaler who closes at 5 p.m. and will not be impacted by after-hours patrons. To the south is the Glendale Fire Department training facility and does not park cars or use the surrounding area. To the north is Los Angeles Street and a handful of mechanic shops, whom all close at 5 p.m. Parking impacts are minimal, and there is sufficient evidence to suggest that there is enough street parking to suffice the parking exemption required for this property. And please refer to the enclosed parking study. Part 4D. Explain how adequate public and private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, and traffic circulation measure are or will be provided for the proposed use. There is sufficient power currently and utilities at the proposed location for our usage. The location is a legal non-conforming property and currently has no landscaping and no area in front, adjacent or to the rear of the building for future landscaping. We will be providing, I know that Cassandra had asked for some planters and stuff like that. We will be trying to spruce it up as best as we can with at least above ground planter boxes in the area, just in front of the building. The property is under the San Fernando Corridor Redevelopment Program area and qualifies for a parking exemption. The proposed usage at this location requires 42 parking spaces. There's an average of 60 parking spaces available after 6 p.m. Part 4E. If the existing or proposed on-site or off-site use is located in a census tract with more than the California Department of Alcohol and Beverage Control recommendation maximum concentration, how does such use not or will not intensify or otherwise contribute to the adverse impacts of the surrounding area caused by such overconcentration? Well, Census Tract 3024.01 allows for 5 on-sale establishments. Currently, there are 8 on-sale establishments. This location will bring the total to 9. This tract will also allows for 3 off-sale establishments. Currently, there are 9 off-sale licenses, so this location will bring the total to 10. Although it's slightly over, we do not feel that the addition of this establishment would adversely affect, intensify, nor contribute to additional impacts on the surrounding area caused by such overconcentration. We feel this would add value to the area and attract more customers to the area and assist in the redevelopment of it. 2, if the existing or proposed use is located in a crime reporting district with a crime rate which exceeds 20% of the city average for Part 1 crimes, how does such use not will tend to encourage or intensify crime within the district? The information we found was based on arrests and Part 1 crime statistics for Census Tract 3024.01. In 2018, there were 570 crimes, 241% above the citywide average of 167. We do not anticipate adding to the crime statistic due to the nature of a craft beer drinker. In fact, adding more people kind of to the area. Like I said, I have another business in Van Nuys, and it's a block away from McLeod's, and they actually found, while they were dealing with their conditional use permit with the city of LA, that actually, believe it or not, rapes and so forth in the area actually went down because there was more people walking the streets and there was more people kind of around than just having it kind of quiet and people doing what they wanted to do. But Real Brewery will be a laid-back atmosphere where quality of beer is preferred over quantity of alcohol, and thus would eliminate some of the incidents associated with other drinking establishments. Although not anticipated, overpouring and overconsumption will additionally be highly regulated by our staff. 3, how will the existing or proposed use not adversely impact any church, public or private school or college, daycare facility, public park, library, hospital, or residential use within the surrounding area? Well, within the 500-foot radius, there are no churches, public or private schools or colleges, no daycare facilities, libraries, or hospitals. There is Chevy Chase Park, a LA City park that is approximately 450 feet away as the crow flies to the southwest. North of the park, there are a handful of houses that are within the 500-foot radius. We believe that the lack of direct accessibility to the brewery eliminates it from being adversely impacted. On the exhibit A, you'll see that there's the train tracks and people have to literally go down Garfield, turn right onto San Fernando, and then down to Chevy Chase, turn right again, cross the railroad tracks just to reach the park or any sort of residential. The fence eliminates direct access from the housing and park areas to the west, and anyone leaving the brewery would have to head east on Garfield and turn south on San Fernando to Chevy Chase and then head west again. This route is 0.5 miles from the brewery and is not within walking distance. The housing section starts 0.6 miles away along the similar route. The above detailed route is the shortest route to this sensitive area, and we believe this obstacle of walking along with the fence on the railroad tracks negates any adverse effects of the brewery to the surrounding community. 4, will adequate parking and loading facilities be provided for the existing or proposed use or other reasonable alternatives satisfy the transportation and parking needs of the existing or proposed use? The proposed location qualifies for a parking exemption under the San Fernando Corridor Redevelopment Plan And please refer to the enclosed parking survey to see the details of the survey conducted from October 22nd to November 2nd. There was an average available parking spaces of 25 at 4 p.m., 52 at 5 p.m., 60 at 6 p.m., and 65 at 7 p.m. The majority of this parking is available on the west side of Los Angeles Street along the train tracks. Our peak hours of operation are from 7 to 10 p.m. and after hours of the surrounding business community. We will have approximately 2 to 3 deliveries, pickups a week in small box trucks and would be consistent to the surrounding businesses. B, there are mass transit opportunities with the bus metro lines and Route 12 pass along San Fernando Road. And if you see Exhibit B for reference of metro routes, and then furthermore, there has been a growing trend toward taxi service of Uber and Lyft amongst the millennial and Gen X generations, which help, alleviate the parking. Real Brewery will also have a bike rack to aid in public transit. We hope that all of these will help alleviate the parking requirements for our patrons. And then 5, notwithstanding consideration of the above criteria 1 through 4, how will the existing or proposed use serve a public necessity or public convenience purpose for the area? The addition of an additional tavern to the area, compounded by the addition of barrel-aged and sour beers to the surrounding beer community, will add value to the beer tourism industry. Real Brewery will be promoting the city of Glendale through its brand and will help attract visitors to the area and hopefully impact local eateries and other retail establishments with the increase of beer tourism. Thank you.
Okay, I do have some questions for you.
Sure.
Thank you for that. In terms of the operation, if I were a prospective customer coming in and I wanted to taste the beers, how many would you typically have available for me to taste?
The taps would be 12 to 15.
And then how many are actually being made on the premises?
12 to 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. So will there be any, so you won't have any outside beers coming in as part of the deliveries? It'll just be the ingredients and whatever's necessary to run the business?
Right. So it would be the raw materials coming in, and then some of those deliveries as well as beer leaving.
Would you be selling wholesale as well?
Correct.
And those would be going to stores or restaurants or?
Yeah, stores, restaurants, bars as well.
Okay, and the same box truck that you had mentioned, that's going to be the one that's going to be doing the delivery of that beer?
Right. Well, different box trucks. One would come from a vendor. So the vendors would drop off the grain and hops and other materials. And then we would have our own box truck, but that would not live on site. That would actually be over at my other business.
In Van Nuys?
Yes.
Okay. And then in terms of packaging and display, if I wanted to come in hypothetically and buy a 6-pack, or as I'm looking at your floor plan, is there, it looks like there's, I guess it's the northern part of the space. Is that going to be like a display area for customers to come in and choose from, or how would somebody come in to be able to buy something to go?
It would be at the bar as well. So yeah, next to the bar will be, within the bar, the back bar will be a fridge of our bottled beers, but everything to go would have to go through the bartender at the bar.
Okay. And that's where, as you mentioned, everybody would be carded and
Correct.
ensure that whoever's buying it's the proper age.
Right.
Okay. So there won't be necessarily a display area for anyone to come in and pick and choose what it is they may want to take to go?
That's all at the bar. We try to encourage people to come talk to the bartender because it's craft beer, and we like to try to educate people about the beer. And so we're hoping that there's a style that we can offer them if they're used to something that's more generic or Budweiser and so forth. We can lead them in kind of the right direction. So we try to consolidate all of our products and everything within that area so that the bartender can be in control of it.
So there's no cash register or anything like that that's separate from the bar area?
Right, no, it's all there. The only thing that would be a display case near the front would be like T-shirts and swag.
Okay. And then you had mentioned that it would be possible for the Uber Eats or Grubhub or Postmates, whatever, to deliver food to your premises for your customers?
Right, yeah. So most breweries encourage them to bring their own food or whatever, you know, if they so choose.
But none's going to be provided as part of the tavern use?
Well, I mean, we're not providing food by any means. There's not a sign outside that says no food allowed. You know, if they want to bring in food, they're more than welcome to. And most of the time, because people come and stay for an hour or two, they want a little bit of food. So usually that's something that's available.
Okay. And were you proposing any live entertainment bands, DJs, anything like that?
At this time, no. There will just be a couple speakers for ambient music, but there won't be anything that's live.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. And then you've read through the proposed conditions of approval?
Yeah, I was scanning. There's 30, but they all seem pretty normal. I tried just real quick, did a clarification on private party. Number 23 was the private parties or other events unless the appropriate zoning approvals have been obtained. So if there was a birthday or something like that, and I mean, what's the definition of a private party, I guess?
Typically more than 30% of the floor area used for that space.
Okay.
So if you're less than that, you should be okay.
Okay.
Otherwise, it turns into a banquet hall, and that's a whole different ballgame.
Understood. Gotcha. Okay. Yep. Fine with that.
Okay, I have two that I would like to add to the list. One would be that the contractor and business owner shall not store trash bins within the city's right-of-way. I see that on your floor plan it shows a trash area located at the back of the space.
Correct.
The second condition that I would like to add would be that either design review board exemption or approval is required prior to any building permit submittal for any facade changes. It's one of our standard conditions.
Oh, for the facades? Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So based off of those two additions and the ones that we have in the list, you're in concurrence with all of those?
Yes. They all seem normal and part of the normal operation. So, yes, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And go ahead and seeing no other speakers and only having one speaker card, I'm going to close the public hearing. Based on the findings recommended by staff, the facts and information presented at the hearing, and the other applicable input we received from the departments, I am going to approve the conditional use permit case 1901129, subject to the conditions listed within the staff report and the two added conditions that I mentioned. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing, will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant, all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses, and have been or have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date appearing on the letter. Under the appeal provisions, Title 30, Chapter 30.62 of the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms and brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety section in the Permit Service Center located on the same floor of this building. The hearing is now officially closed. I would like to thank everyone for coming. It is 10:21 on June 19th, 2019. Thank you all very much.